Welcome to Thrive and Serve, where we explore how thriving as our most authentic selves powerfully amplifies our impact. And today, I want to talk to you about fear. Fear. It's a topic that's really coming up for me lately, and so I wanted to share some of my experiences and thoughts in the hope that it will be helpful to you. So let's take a deep breath together and let's begin. I've been exploring curious creation lately, and I've been playing with co-creating, collaborating with people I love and respect and have great relationships with to call forth things into being that weren't there before, right? So two or more people gather together in the energy of creating something magical. Magical things happen beyond what we can do ourselves, beyond what we can do as in our own strength, when we're just like powering forward. When we bring people together and we collaborate, the result is massively better. It's a term that Napoleon Hill called the mastermind. So when people are gathered in that same energy, then something changes, something shifts. And this really is the power of community and how profound it is for us when we connect with others in that sense. People who are on the same wavelength, on the same page, really get what it is that we do. And so one of my co-create things at the moment has been working on a new podcast with a great friend of mine, Monique Lindner. Monique and I are creating a podcast, and the process of creating a podcast, I'm okay with, right? I've done it before. I know what to do. Tick, 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 tick. That's easy. And Monique and I were in conversation about the theme tune music. So for my Thrive and Serve, I recorded this little bit of music on my guitar, and it's like, hey, yeah, I can record something cool for the podcast. Leave it with me. And I play that guitar almost every day, and I have done for the past 35 years, maybe more. In fact, I got a picture of me like 4 years old with a guitar in my hand, right? I didn't really play it too much during my childhood, but I've always loved the guitar and been able to play it. And I've been really lucky in my life. I've played in front of literally hundreds of people live, playing the guitar and singing. And I'm like, yeah, I can make this music for the podcast. Editing the podcast, doing all kinds of cool work without even thinking about it. And then I pick the guitar up. Let me grab it. I pick the guitar up and I play something. And I'm like, I'm literally gripped with fear. I get like a nervous feeling, like I got when I first performed live in front of other people, like a shakiness in my arms. I can almost feel it now thinking about it. And I really, really struggled to create the music for the podcast. So that playing the guitar, I'm no great guitarist, right? But I've played it for a long time. And I'm good enough to strum some songs, sing along, and entertain myself, entertain people around me. And yet, when it came to recording this stuff for the podcast, it was like, what am I doing? Like, what's going on? And when I examined it, it was fear of failure, fear of judgment, like fear of being judged by those around me, a fear of not being good enough. So that voice that comes up for me all the time, hey, Colin, who do you think you are? Your guitaring's not good enough. What are you creating here? That stuff that you're making up, it's nonsense. Nobody wants to hear it. And, even though I know I can do it, I have this frozen feeling. And it was interesting to me because it really reminds me of those things that just stop us in our tracks. We know that we want to achieve X, and in order to achieve X, we need to do A, B, C. It's a fact. If we don't do A, B, and C, we'll never get to X. So whatever that thing is that you're looking to do. And yet, when we get into the mode of actually doing these things that we know we need to do, there's often this big gap. And when we honestly look how we are showing up and the things that we are actually doing, often we're missing something. So we have all of this good stuff going on in our minds. Oh, I'm going to make this. I'm going to create that. I'm going to work on this. I'm going to put that out, and I'm going to be seen as this and that and the other. But there's a big difference in that activity that's going on in here and what's actually going out into the world, the content that we're actually creating and pushing out to the wider audience. So my encouragement to you in this is to take heed. We all feel this fear, no matter who we are. No doubt Bono, before he goes onto stage, has that same like sense of trepidation and nervousness, right? Everybody has a sense of fear, especially when we're doing something creative. And when we do something creative, something meaningful, we step outside of our comfort zone, and that in itself can bring with it the paralysis. So my encouragement here is to take an honest look first at what you think is going on in your mind in terms of your output and what it is, how you're showing up. Then look outwardly at how you actually look in the world. Look at your world through the eyes of a stranger and make an honest assessment as to what quantity, what quality, and what consistency of things you're putting out into the world. And then with that information, take a gentle, loving, compassionate look inside of you for those things that may be stopping you from doing A, B, and C. Those things that may be holding you back, just as I was held back creating the music for my new podcast. And as I'm held back in many different avenues and areas of life, as we all are, there's no, like, you do it and you've done it. You overcome it and then it never comes again. That's just not a real interpretation of what this experience of life really is, especially in the game of business, because we're always playing outside of our comfort zone. We're always stretching ourselves. We're always moving into new frontiers and playing with new ideas, which is what makes it such fun. But at the same time, it's scary. It's a white knuckle ride. It's a roller coaster ride. And so with that, we really have to have love and compassion for self. We have to be honest. We have to reflect and have that introspective look. So when that fear came up for me, I was able to see it. I was able to catch it and go, I see you. I see you. And I sent a voice message to Monique, just kind of laughing, saying, oh, you'll never guess what's going on for me today. Like I said I'm going to do this, but I just can't do it. I'm frozen. I'm paralyzed with fear. And being able to see it and catch yourself in that moment when you're paralyzed, when you are frozen with the fear of success, failure, judgment, label it whatever you will, but the awareness is the biggest step. With that awareness, you are able to reconnect to that reason that you're doing the thing in the first place, and just to bring yourself back down into that energy of groundedness, of connectedness, of the interconnectedness of all things, and realize that you can move forward. Realize that you can take that step. And in taking that step, actually, so much more opens up for you creatively. There's no way I could have picked that guitar up and just strum those songs before when I was in the fear state, right? So we very much have to have a process to bring us out of fear state and into that grounded connectedness. And this is where there really is a critical element of this for you to have a process of ritual, habits, routine, where you will journal, meditate, spend time with self. Because it's only when you spend time with self that you can catch self, when self falls into fear, paralysis, and all of those things that hold you back from doing the thing that you know you want to do. You really know you want to do it. So connect to that knowing, connect to that desire, connect to that longing, that invisible force that is pulling you toward this thing that feels powerful, feels meaningful to you. Stay connected to that. because you will float away and that connection will become weaker and weaker. So you always have to remain tethered. You always have to remain grounded in that reason that you're doing this, because that emotional energy of the reason will keep you moving forward when fear rears its ugly head, right? When fear comes about, because it always will. It always will. And I love the quote from Nietzsche that says, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." And the anyhow are the firestorms of life, the flaming arrows of doubt and fear and uncertainty and unpleasantness that arise when things don't go how we expected, or stuff comes up that just stops us in our tracks. And so my goal for you in sharing this is to be encouraged, and also to embody a practice that allows you to have these fears just like every single one of us on the planet has, but still to move forward, and still to do the work, and still to put your message out there, because people need to hear what you have got to say. And that is the most important thing. You taking those steps and getting that message out there is critical. It is vital to those people who need to hear it. Thank you for joining me on Thrive and Serve. I'm Colin Scotland, and if you enjoyed this content, please review, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, thriving as our most authentic self is what truly amplifies our impact. So go, let your light shine in the world in the way that only you can.